So you want to buy a rental property, you want to get into investment properties yourself, and you think to yourself, I would love to do it, but there's so many things that can go wrong. Well, things can and do go wrong. And as a matter of fact, things for me recently went really left, and it's okay. You can overcome these things, and if you can survive what I just went through, and I'm going to tell you how I did it, you'll be all right. So recently, a long-term tenant of mine that had been there for multiple years in one of the rental properties, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property, had decided that it was her turn to go. And, well, when I say she decided, I mean she stopped paying the rent. That became a prolongated problem because she also applied for state sponsorship and the programs, and we were trying to be nice and give this person an opportunity to turn whatever it was around. As a landlord, that's typically a red flag to bad things to come. But for all intents and purposes, she looked like she had taken good care of the property. She didn't have a pet deposit because she wasn't supposed to have pets, but there were some complaints about extra people visiting the house. And when we asked her the question, because the HOA reached out to us, the response came back that all of her children had significant others or friends that would come over to the house, and they would often park their car in the driveway and on the street in front of the property, but nothing nefarious was going on. Well, come to find out, there were a number of problems, and we did not renew her contract because we just felt like something was off. When we went over, we were called just before she was supposed to leave, and we found out that the home had a significant flood. Water all the way through the bathroom, backed up in the toilets, backed up in the bathtub, water breaching into the carpet in the master bedroom. It was bad, really bad. And yet, somehow, it was a struggle just to get them to acknowledge us at the front door. The person I sent over had a body cam on, and the reason why is that particular tenant had passed out drunk on the couch. I don't say this to disparage the tenant, I say this to give you the primer and the understanding of how bad it actually was. So the tenant ultimately leaves, and we know there's a water issue. Well, you as a landlord, you have to experience some of the challenges that you're going to have. In this property were beautiful color-matched wood doors that had all been painted with chalkboard paint, and whoever was drawing them was drawing on them pretty aggressively, and there were holes in the doors. In addition to that, these beautifully textured walls, which were hand textured because this is a high-end home in a gated community, all had holes in the walls all the way through the property, little bits here and there. Layer in, there was also a tremendous amount of fleas. So many fleas in the property, it took not one, not two, but 3 treatments. And then ultimately we decided to rip all the carpet out and put new carpet in anyway because it just wasn't gonna get out. We also found another leak that was undisclosed to us, and there was black mold in it. And there was just problem after problem after problem. That leak came from a bursted pipe that no one even addressed, not to mention the other problem, which was flooding the master bedroom. I'm a landlord who likes to keep really good care of his property, and to see this happen when someone could have easily called us and let us in was very discouraging and very expensive. But what I can tell you is if you as a new landlord get into this situation and you plan ahead, these things are not as heartbreaking as they may sound. You have a deposit, and if you do your job right, that's usually a month, if not a month and a half, in some cases 2 months of your actual rent. In this particular tenant's case, it was a month and a half of their rent. We also have a $2,500 that I keep for every single one of my rental properties in just additional funds on the side. The property manager also has some reserve for some incidentals. So when you add all this money together, in this particular property rented out, I think for $1,600, rented out, we had about $5,000 to work with. All in all, replacing the floors, replacing the carpet, fixing the walls, fixing the plumbing leaks, and fixing the mold issues, and then repainting the entire house wound up being about $7,000. And as cumbersome and as stressful as that may sound to a new real estate investor, somebody who's more seasoned knows that my property manager is going to handle all of that. The only thing I had to do is be prepared to write over the check. So as scary and concerning as this is, it was only about $2,000 out of pocket to me at the end of the day. Now, granted, I will have to replenish those reserve accounts. I will have to replenish all the money that we spent. But the most important thing is I can now rent that property out, which was renting at $1,600 2 years ago when we leased it, for about $2,000 now, increasing my cash flow by about $400 a month. The rent on that property covers it pretty well. As a matter of fact, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, I do impound for taxes and insurance, and the principal and interest is amortizing, so I am paying the principal down in addition to that, is about $1,100 a month. So you can see how we went from $500 a month in profit on this one property now to about $900 a month in profit. So if you take that $900 a month in profit and you go out, call it 5 months, it's for about $4,500. Everything should be replenished in your reserves, and then everything after that will be back to your profitability once again. So when people worry about their worst case scenario, it's a short-term focus. And a lot of landlords have this tremendous fear over the worst case scenario of what could and might happen. And as a guy who's owned a lot of real estate and still owns a lot of real estate, I can tell you this is one of the worst scenarios that I've ever seen. It took us a lot of work to get people there, according between plumbers, between carpet people, between hardwood flooring people, between painters. And then you have to get everybody out and get property relisted and get everybody back in. It takes a bunch of time. All this happened, believe it or not, in less than 30 days. So I'm not out a tremendous amount of rent either. And in this particular market, where it's super hard for renters to find a property as rents are rising everywhere, and this is not a rent-controlled state in Oklahoma, we're going to find somebody for that property as long as our rent is really where market's at and not extraordinarily high, pretty fast. Which means at the most, I'm probably going to be out a month, maybe a month and a half of rent. All in all, in about probably 6 to 8 months, I'll be made entirely whole from that set of circumstances. I'll have a way better tenant in the property, and I'll be cash flowing more over time. You shouldn't fear situations like this as a landlord. You should use them as learning experiences to not only improve who you rent your property to, but also a chance to improve your cash flow and re-rent the property back out at market. I hope this helps somebody out there, give you some perspective. If you have any questions, please ask them. I have nothing to hide. I will share all the property management tips that we can and what we do to cut costs and save some money while still providing a high-end product to the market. Tune in next week. See you then.